for the UNX News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the UNX News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening and welcome to UNX News. I'm your host, Margie K. And boy, we have a lot going on right now. I'm just going to run over a couple of things before we bring our guest on this evening. UNX Media just published this book by Mindy Toutfest. She's the state director of Oklahoma, and she wrote this book, Dying to Meet Them, One Woman's Incredible Journey from NDE to UAP. And boy, is that a good read. I highly suggest getting it, and it is available on Amazon. And when you do get it, if you would leave a comment and leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it, and so would Mindy. We've got a couple things coming up in October. The Arkansas Paranormal Expo is coming up. Go to arkansasparanormalexpo.com to check that out. And then also, and that's the last weekend of October. And then right after that, of course, that's in Little Rock. In Springfield, Missouri, we have XCon. And this is our second XCon for the UNX Network. It's about my 26th conference that I've been a director of. And but last year, of course, because of COVID, we did that virtually. And at this time, we're doing it in person and also live streaming. So you can take your pick what you want to do. But look at this. From now until September the 10th, buy one ticket, get one free. Okay. So for $279, you can get 2 tickets, and it includes a lot for that event. We've got top speakers, vendors, and a Mad Hatter Halloween party and banquet celebrating our 2nd year in business here at the UNX Network. Our keynote speaker is Scott Walter. You don't want to miss that one. And then finally, tomorrow, we are publishing the UNX Magazine September issue, and that is a special conference issue with the entire lineup of speakers and the schedule, everything you need to know about the conference, plus some good articles, and of course, an article about our very own Lee Spiegel, who just recently passed, unfortunately. And we are helping out with a GoFundMe to help send Lee to space. So check that out. You'll get all the information there. My guest this evening, I've been trying to get this guy on for a long time. He was a guest on my show a few years ago, and I'm just thrilled to have R. Scott Nelson. He's one of the few 2-time graduates of the Defense Language Institute, served 20 years in the U.S. Navy as a Cryptologic Technician Interpreter, a Crypto-Linguist in Russian, Spanish, and Persian, excuse me, during which time he conducted the collection, transcription, and analysis of hundreds of hours of the human voice on tape. After retiring from the Navy, Scott spent 20 years teaching at Wentworth Military College and another 3 years at Missouri Military Academy as chair of the Philosophy and Language Department. So, Scott, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So good to see you again. You spoke
Likewise.
at one of my conferences here in Kansas City. I think it was 2011. It's been that long ago.
Seems a long. Yep, that was only 2 years in for me.
Indeed. And you always have fascinating things to say. And of course, everybody knows who you are, but we're going to go back to the beginning and just tell us what got you interested in studying the sounds of Sasquatch.
Well, even though I grew up in the Rocky Mountains, I was never a Bigfoot guy. I'd heard stories from my Native American friends, because I lived right next to the largest Indian school west of the Mississippi. So I had a lot of Indian friends. So I'd heard about, this creature, but I always thought it was wives' tales. So I never had an interest in it. And then in 2008, I was at my classroom, and my son happened to be there because he didn't have school that day. And he had a report that he had to write. He was 12 years old. So like all 12-year-old boys, he wanted to write it either on UFOs, the Loch Ness Monster, or Bigfoot.
Sure, yeah.
So, and Google was new to me at that time, at least, and I said, well, heck, let's Google it, Stevie. And so we did. And while we're bringing stuff up, he said, Dad, what do you think Bigfoots sound like? And I remembered some, B-grade movie from the 70s. And I let out that, Bigfoots, they sound like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he said, Dad, that's not what Bigfoots sound like. So I said, well, let's Google it. Right? So I did. I literally Googled Bigfoot's sounds. And it took me directly to the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, to a little side prompt they had about Bigfoot sounds. And the first one I clicked on said samurai chatter. Well, chatter to a linguist means language. It's a linguistic term. So I clicked on that, and almost immediately, and it was only like a 3-second clip. And I played it a second time, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I played it a third time, and Stevie's like, Dad, what's the matter? What's the matter? I go, Stephen, there's language. There's language in this clip, but that's not a human being. He says, no, Dad, no, that doesn't sound like language to me. It sounds like apes fighting. Sounds like coyotes or apes fighting to me. I said, no, son. I said, we need to slow this down like Dad used to do in the Navy, which is what I did for all my career in the Navy, is speed the human voice up on tape and slow it down so that I could, recover the sounds, get it on paper so it can be analyzed. So that day in one 3-second clip changed everything for me, because 3 things I knew immediately. It was not a human being. It was making sounds human beings can't make, yet it was articulating second thing, it was articulating a language exactly the same way that humans do, except for the extra sounds and the resonance and the power of it, and the frequencies above and below what humans are capable of. And the third thing that I immediately knew is that it was not fake, and it couldn't be faked. And I've got tons of, I could go on and on, my evidence for all of those 3 conclusions. But that's how I got started.
Yeah.
Right away, I had to, with a few days of detective work, I found Ron Morehead, one of the 2 guys that had actually made the tapes back in 1970. There they are. That's Ron Morehead on your right, Alan Berry on your left. Al made his tapes in 1972, and Ron made his in 1974 at the same location. That right there is the Sierra Camp. You can see the lead tube behind Ron there.
Yes.
And I've made 10 expeditions to that very place, and my son Stephen has been on 5 of those with us.
So was your son immediately intrigued by the sounds, and was he convinced that was a language?
Well, it took Ron 2 days to get the tapes to me. because he realized that I was a legitimate guy. And I didn't know at the time, they'd been looking for a guy like me for 35 years.
Wow.
Once I got the CDs in the mail with the tapes on them, you know, and started playing them for Stevie, that's when he realized that's not normal.
Yeah, indeed. Now you and your son went to a place near Kansas City called James A. Reed. When did you do that?
That was I was well into the transcription of the tapes. It took me 4 months to transcribe the tapes because there's so much. There's almost 90 minutes of it, and it's just such a long process. Which, you know, when I present at conferences, I show that methodology, and you can see why it's so slow and meticulous I have to be. So I was well into the transcription of the sounds, and my ex-wife was on it. Actually, Stevie's mom had you know, caught wind of what we were doing, me and Stevie, and she was in James A. Reed on a bicycle, and she saw what she said was a barefoot human footprint. And so she took a picture of it with her phone and says, "Hey, you might want to come down and check James A. Reed out, because you know there's no reason for somebody to be up here in the middle of the woods with bare feet."
Yeah, and that's a wildlife area, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
A Missouri State Conservation Area. And so, you know, just for fun, we packed up and went out there, and I'll be damned if we didn't see some footprints. So, but I wanted to cast them. You know, suddenly I became a Bigfoot guy, right? So I was gonna cast footprints. So we came back 2 days later. We went out there with all of the plaster Paris and all the stuff, you know, and to take pictures and measure and all that kind of stuff. But I also took a big ham just to, you know, so that I could, I don't know what I thought I was doing, baiting the creature or something, you know, to come out. Hey, come get your ham, Biggie, you know, whatever. And he never showed himself to me. But we cast the footprints. And while we were casting the footprints, we heard the very strong, and it scared the hell out of me, but I couldn't, you know, Stevie's 12 years old. And he goes, Dad, what was that? And I just, first thing that came to my mind, I said, that was a forest ranger trying to start a chainsaw.
Okay.
So, you know, and he's, okay, that calmed him down. Last thing I needed out there in the woods was, you know, a panicked kid. And so we packed everything up. We were headed back. And as we were headed back, we hear the same exact sound. Probably a half hour later, we headed back to the car, and I hadn't left the ham out yet. And we heard it again, just like that.
Boy, you got that down.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
And Stevie, you know, we both tensed up, and he goes, Dad, was that a forest ranger trying to start a chainsaw again? I goes, yes, son. Yes. Yeah, was a forest ranger with a chainsaw again. Oh. And so he calmed down a little bit, and I said, look, I'm going to go off. Which I shouldn't have done, because I knew whatever that made that sound was close. And this is a story I don't tell at you asked because it's a local area, right? Yeah. I don't tell this story, you know, at conferences. But I took that bag that I had of that ham, and I walked off about 40 yards, probably, 20 yards, 40 feet or more. And I hung it up where I knew that coyotes couldn't get it. I hung it up on a tree, right? And just left it there. And I come back and I see Stephen is panicked. He goes, Dad, did you smell him? Did you smell it? I goes, no, son, what's the matter? And I'm hugging him. He goes, Dad, he was right behind me. He was breathing on me. I said, did you see it? He goes, no. He goes, but then I had a panicked kid on my hands, and I just held him, and I grabbed our stuff what I could, and I damn near carried him back to the car, and we got the hell out of there. But that's I didn't see it or smell it or hear it other than those two growl snarls. But Steven said he smelled it and it was just made him sick to his stomach. And he said he could hear it and feel it breathing right behind him. And then when I started coming back, he was gone. Margie, that's a story I've very rarely told to anyone.
I have never heard you say that story. So I'm glad you shared it on my program tonight. The James A. Reed area is known for strange occurrences. And I know of two people who have seen Bigfoot there.
Really?
One woman saw she says was all white, about 7 feet tall, across the road in front of them. And then a man I know who is a MUFON investigator, and he lives locally, was driving through there one day and saw a large 8 to 9 foot tall, all brown Bigfoot cross the road in front of him. And I've gone out there a few times, sitting and waiting for things to happen, but I have not seen anything personally. But I do know of those two instances, and also the eastern Jackson County area. Monkey Mountain is known for Bigfoot sightings. What do you know about that area?
There's a reason it's called Monkey Mountain. It was named that by the pioneers who had never seen a monkey. Other than if they saw a Sasquatch. But there are two places in Missouri that are called Monkey Mountain. One of them is right there, not far from James A. Reed, and the other one is up on the north side, up by the Missouri River, up near the Iowa border. But they're both called. There's a reason that the pioneers named these places that. There's no other reason for them to do that.
Indeed.
And it is, when you get up there, you do have a feeling that there's something going on there that's out of the norm.
I've taken reports of sightings of other types of creatures there too, like a dog man and Mothman.
Wow.
7 foot tall humanoid with wings, all black. And then he fluttered his wings as this couple walked by. And then they just backed up. They just started backing up down the trail. He was standing right next to him. What do you think about, I've got a kind of a theory about portals and these beings being interdimensional. What do you think about that?
Ron Morehead believes that's how they travel. He believes that they go, I believe that they live underground somehow. Now, there's been enough happen to us up there on the Sierra Camp and here that it convinces me that they have extraordinary abilities that humans don't have. But Ron is really the expert on the portals. He's the one he actually believes that up there at the Sierra Camp, where these tapes were recorded, he believes that there is a portal or a vortex up there. And others, many others believe this.
Other things happen at that place too, like the orbs that have been seen. Have you ever seen them?
Yes, I saw one orb. Yeah, one bigger than normal orb. Up at the Sierra Camp, you mean? Yes. Yeah. I saw one orb up there that I couldn't explain, and it was bigger, and we could see it go over the trees above us, go down a little to the creek bed, and follow the meadow up to several miles away. We could watch this, and it went up and over the top of the closest precipice to us, which is at least 2 or 3 miles away.
So was this a light?
It was a light, yeah, white. To me, it was just white. And, you know, when we first saw it, to me, it was about basketball size. But as it got farther away, to our perception, it didn't seem to change. So therefore, in my mind, in retrospect, it had to have been getting bigger, because we would not have been able to see 2 or 3 miles away. We would not have been able to see a basketball size light, except for it was very, very intense, you know.
What do you think that was? Do you think it was a UFO?
That's, you know, way beyond my my expertise. That's more in you know, your line.
Okay.
But yeah, who knows? Because Ron thinks all kinds of things. Ron thinks it could be a spirit. It could be, you know, he's written a whole book on, you know, quantum Bigfoot and what they could be.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a UFO, it was an awful little one. You know, who knows?
They can come in all sizes.
I'm sure.
So now
he has seen. He and the other hunters up there have seen orbs and lights in different shapes. Him and his wife. This has been about 5 years ago. 5 years ago now, saw one about 3 feet long, about 6 inches thick. It was like a tube, like just a tubular thing, and it traveled in that way, but it was intelligently guided in some way. It wasn't just a random St. Elmo's light or whatever, St. Elmo's fire. It traveled through the trees and off, and they watched it for a couple minutes before it just disappeared. Went very close to them. So yes, the lights are definitely up there on that, at that mountain.
Now this place is very inaccessible and rough, difficult to get to. Not anybody can just go there.
No.
Now the lean-to that they originally built, wasn't that torn down?
Yes, they were.
Rangers?
Yep, because of some of our work, you know, and presentations in that, they started looking for it. The government started looking for it up there because it's in a wildlife area, and has always been there in a wildlife area, and so it's always been kept a secret. But you know, I never revealed anything because I was sworn to secrecy the very first day. But others gathered kind of the information from several different things that we might have said. Maybe some pictures that we showed, you know, and so the government caught wind of where it might be, and they went up and found it. So what they did is they wrote to Ron and the other hunters. Alan Barry had already passed on by this time. They wrote to the Department of Interior or whoever the hell, wrote to Ron and them and said, you have to go up there and dismantle it. They made Ron and them go up and hire a mule train to carry all the stuff down that they had stored up there, which cost them quite a bit, but it was better than being prosecuted for, you know, trespassing.
Yeah. So since then, have you been back since that protected area has been taken away?
Yes.
So
yeah.
What do you sleep in a tent? What do you do?
Yes, tents. Well, we always slept in tents because the lean-to, since I started going up there, the lean-to was a little bit dilapidated, and it had a lot of old camping stuff inside that was not in good shape, and it was kind of smelly in there. So we always stayed in tents.
Okay.
Anyway, and now that it's gone, yes, I've been up there one time with Dave Paulides. I don't know if you know Dave Paulides with the missing 411.
Yeah, definitely.
And we went up there, and we were the last scene in his last movie. Ron and I and Dave sitting around a campfire.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk more about that. I'm Margie K with the next news. Don't go away.
It's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. The UNX Network Year 2 anniversary at XCon 2023. XCon is being held this year from October the 30th to November 1st at the beautiful Oasis Hotel and Conference Center in Springfield, Missouri. Top speakers include host of America Unearthed, Scott Walter, plus Haley Ramsey, Sev Tok, UNX's very own Maureen Richmond and Dan Terry, Mindy Toutfest, Harriet McFeely, Forrest Crawford, and many more. And they're all coming to deliver new information on topics like UFOs, alien encounters, cryptids and ancient secrets, and real hauntings from the afterlife. Join us for the film premiere of A Haunting in Blue Hill. And don't miss the Mad Hatter Paranormal Halloween Bash, Banquet, and Costume Contest on All Hallows Eve, October 31st. So join us as we close out the 2023 conference season. Info and tickets are available now at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com, and we'll see you there.
Are you thinking about purchasing a wood-fired heating or cooking appliance but don't know where to start? The new book, Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking, will guide you through the process and make the decision much easier. Find out about wood stoves, wood-burning fireplace inserts, masonry heaters, cook stoves, brick ovens, and more. Learn about operation and maintenance, buying and storing wood, even how to make your own charcoal. A bonus section includes delicious recipes for cooking in a wood-burning oven, grill, tandoori oven, or smoker. The wise homeowner, prepper, or homesteader will have the ability to heat their home with wood when the power goes out or to save money on increasing gas bills. Wood-fired heating and cooking is available at Amazon. Visit www.woodfiredpub.com for more information. That's woodfiredpub.com.
With the next news, I'm your host, Margie K, and my guest this evening is Scott Nelson, and we're talking about Sasquatch language this evening. Scott, tell me a little bit about the movie that was made and who was in it, and how long did it take to do that?
You mean the Dave Paulides movie?
Yes, yes.
Because there's a new one out that is going to be debuted in this month, actually, the 6th of this month at Skinwalker Ranch. They're having a conference out there, and the movie is going to be debuted out there, and it's really based on mine and Ron's experiences, as well as Stevie's.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
is there a website for
but
that?
What's that?
I'll get the information on that and post it on our site later. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So did you have any experiences when you were doing the filming?
No, it's up there at the Sierra camp. It's quite an odd thing. If you talk to enough Bigfoot people who have had experiences, they will tell you that when they're near you, when they are in the environs that you're hiking, that you can feel them. And this I found to be true. There were times me and Ron would get up there and we would feel like, oh my God, they're here. You can feel them. And I don't know if it's something that they do. They just let you know that they're there or whatever. But you can feel them. There are other times we would get up there and me and Ron would look at each other and go, well, man, I don't feel anything. Do you? No, I don't feel anything. And then nothing would happen. But what was weird about that is what we started to notice right away. When we get up there and we had the feeling, my God, they're here. They are here, Ron. We know, right? And we would turn, Ron at first started taking up a big video camera. Because Ron's goal is always like, we got to catch one on tape, right? But I always took up, top of the line voice recorders. And what we noticed up there, right from the very beginning, is if we had the feeling that they were in there and that they were visiting us, you could never hear them or see them, of course. That if they were there, we would turn on our equipment, my voice recorder, I would turn it on, and you could watch the battery go, just like that.
Yep.
And the second time we went up there, and every time after that, we took buku supply of the top lithium batteries, and both my recorder, if they were there. Both my recorder and Ron's video recorder, you literally watch the little battery symbol go within 30 seconds to a minute. And yet, when the times that we got up there and we had no feeling whatsoever, we knew that they weren't there. My little voice recorder, in one session, I could turn it on. It would last for 4 days. So, weird stuff like that.
That's odd. It's either like a portal opening that's doing it, draining the battery. I mean, UFO researchers will tell you all the time, if there's a UFO around, the batteries are going.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've been on numerous investigations where we set up equipment in a place that's very active. And then if there's something that we're seeing, you can watch the batteries drain in all the cameras.
Wow.
And the cell phones, everything. That's
that tells me that, and more Bigfoot researchers are coming to the conclusion that this is all connected somehow.
Yes.
We don't know how. There's too many parallels that happen, with the orbs and whatever you want to call it. There's too many weird connections.
The one thing that bothers me is that people who are investigators in any of these fields, whether it's paranormal, it's cryptids or ufology, whatever it is, some people have a tendency to have blinders on and only stay in that one lane.
Of course.
Yeah, once you've been in it for a while, just like you,
Huh.
Scott, most investigators come to the point where you can't have a dividing line because all of these things are connected. And when you, for instance, one of my witnesses saw a craft landed next to a pond with a ET and a Sasquatch walking together around the pond. Now,
Really?
you can't say they're not connected.
You mean one of them little guys? The little
Yes, one of the
green
little
guy and a
grays.
gigantic Sasquatch?
Yes.
Good
Yes.
God.
I mean, yeah.
So who's in charge? Who's in charge?
That's the question. Yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to know that.
Man.
I'll tell you what, now would be a real good time to play some of the sounds that you've got.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind doing that.
Let me turn on my little speaker here and
Tell us what we're listening to.
okay, well, this is the Berry tape, and it starts out with a juvenile whimpering a little bit, and then the adult female goes right into it very quickly. And I will there's some dead time between the vocalizations, and I will fast forward through some of those for you. But here we go.
Okay.
See we. Here she goes. Bramhal Baruchahu. This is a language. There's no doubt. You notice how fast the prosody or deliverance of the utterance is.
Oh, yes, yes.
He go, whoop, me watch food, playing food. And it just goes on and on. We have 90 minutes of it. And go ahead.
Have you ever been able to decipher what they're saying or kind of the idea of a
No,
of a
it would all be speculation. Of course, that was Ron's constant mantra when we first got together. It's just, Scott, I want to hear, because especially on Ron's tape, they actually slow their voices down in an attempt to communicate with the humans. This I'm quite certain of.
Oh.
Yeah, on Ron's tape. So Ron has always been, Scott, you're an interpreter. Tell me what they're saying. I said, Ron, this is what an eminent philosopher by the name of Dr. Willard Quine 60 years ago wrote up. He says, if we ever come across a completely unknown language, then the only way to interpret it or translate it is what we would call radical translation. So but he did give us an idea of where we would start. We would have to start with the words, if we can find out the words for yes and no, then we might have a starting point. But I tell Ron, I said, Ron, there's no way to translate this, without sitting down at having tea with a Sasquatch and saying, okay, when you said this, did you mean tree or did you mean woman, Sasquatch? What did you mean? So, so that's been a disappointment to Ron. But my mantra is, Ron, this is a language. We don't have to translate it. It is enough to know that it is a language and that we can prove that it's a language and that they are not human. That changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
So he's had to be satisfied with that.
In your trips up there from the beginning and then up to your last trip that you've taken, did you notice any difference in frequency of visits with the Bigfoot or the length of time they would stay around you?
Not a pattern, not a real pattern. Each time, if we had discovered a pattern, then we would have, changed our plans to try to meet those, try to stay within that pattern. But there was you never knew. And I'll say, out of the 10 times that I've been up there, there's only been probably about 3 times that we've been up there and nothing happened. But where you could feel that they weren't there. So most of the time you get up there and you've got this weird feeling.
Well, and obviously these creatures are massive, and they could easily have taken you guys out if they wanted to.
Easily, yes.
Do you think that they are just curious as to what humans are, or do you think they know more than we do?
I think they're so smart. Once we take one step into those woods, we're in their house. Right. However, I think they've come to realize and evolved with the notion that their sole survival depends on the avoidance of humans. Mm-hmm. That's why they disappear on us. They don't show themselves to us. I think you do not see a Sasquatch unless he means for you to see him, unless it's just a total mistake on their part. So if their whole existence and survival depends on the avoidance of humans, they know what brings more humans faster than anything else. Killing a human or the disappearance of a human. If we were to go up there and we were to disappear, what would happen? Thousands of human beings would, congregate on that mountain looking for us. Yeah. And I think they know that. So that's why I think they don't take it. However, if you read Dave Paulides' books, there are enough people that disappear without a trace.
His books are very scary.
Yeah, and when they do, I think when they take a human out, and I think they're capable of it and do it, I think they do. But when they do, they leave no sign, no trace whatsoever. Most often, even the humans' camping equipment and the guns and everything are just gone. However, there are enough of them that reappear. Humans reappear after they've been searched for days and days. But they appear 2 mountain ranges away.
Yeah, impossible distances, especially with the children or these little kids that disappear. Right there. They're right there next to their parents. They disappear, and they find them miles away on another mountaintop. Right. The kid couldn't have traveled there by itself.
No, and they're found in places where the kid could not have, like on a sandbar in the middle of a river. Yeah, that the kid could not have made it there himself. Places like that. So, and this has led in the Bigfoot community to the speculation that there is some coordination going on with vortexes or UFOs or something like that, because,
that step into a portal in one place and then you're in another place 5 miles away in an instant. Yeah.
Or they're carried often, this several dozen times in these disappearances where the kid comes back, they say things like, how did you stay warm? How come you didn't freeze to death at night? And they say things like, well, the bear mommy took care of me. Mm-hmm. The bear mommy. So how is a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid going to explain what happened to them?
Right.
How did you get a mountain range over? This is, the bear daddy took me. Or the bear people. It's
yeah, and you could see how a little kid would just equate a Sasquatch with a bear because they
Of
probably
course.
don't know what Sasquatch is. They couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Now, well, first of all, do you have any other tapes you want to play for us? Do you have anything interesting?
Well, I mean, that's the more I play for this, you would find that once you attune your ear to it, even at the prosody at which it is delivered, the speed of the utterance, which is almost twice as fast as humans normally speak.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And so you have to slow it down. I could probably pick a spot and slow it down and let you hear the difference.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Let me go back here and.
While you're doing that,
yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Have you heard any other sounds while you were out in the field that Bigfoot made, like tree knocks or whoops, anything like that?
I have heard tree knocks at James A. Reed.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, that's the only place I've heard tree knocks. I've heard what I call the concession snarl, which is that first one that I told you about that I heard with Stevie. And I call it a concession snarl because I think it's just a way for them to let you know that they're there, that they are around, and maybe they know we're looking for them. So maybe they think, well, these poor little skinny hairless apes, they're looking for us so bad. Let's give them something, so they'll do this,
Oh yeah.
But
you usually scare us away.
let me see here. Okay, here's a good spot. Okay, now what I'm doing here, and you can't see it, in my presentations, I have this up on the screen where show my methodology. I've isolated that little piece, and I will slowly slow it down to where. And once you hear it slowed down, then you can hear it sped back up again, and you can actually hear that you are listening to a language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll play this here. It's looped again. Now this is actually a slower deliverance than most of it. But so I'll slow it down to where. Now, can you hear how it's slowed down?
Oh, yeah, it sounds like a sentence.
It actually begins to sound more like a human being.
It does.
Right? And of course, I always get that. Once I say that, then they're always so, well, how do you know that these weren't just humans with their voice speeded up? And they're playing. And I said, well, first off, no one can even find the Sierra Camp, let alone get to it in the first place. And the second place, I know from having the human voice speeded up, it doesn't sound like this. It sounds like Alvin the Chipmunk.
Right.
Now, if you remember Alvin the Chipmunk, that was actually human voices speeded up.
Uh-huh.
And this does not sound like this at all. Besides the fact that it goes above and below the frequencies that humans are capable of.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. Do they make sounds that are above what we can actually hear, above and below that? And then do you record that?
No. Well, we record. It may be on recordings, but still, when you play the recording back, it's still above the ability for us to hear.
Right, but it would be, like if you throw it into an audio program, you could see
that
it.
would be the job of a sound specialist.
Okay.
Which there are people that have made spectrographs or whatever they call them, sound spectrographs of some of these recordings, and they do see something going above where it just shuts our ears just shut it out.
Mm-hmm.
And also way below. But again, there's no way to study that or to hear it.
Right.
How,
and what about the theory of infrasound? Will they make some? They'll do this, and then the people around, or they can actually make it directed at a person who might feel nauseous and dizzy, and they might even faint. Have you had that experience?
I've had that one time. Guess where?
It's either
James A. Reed.
Oh my gosh!
On a completely different night, I made a mistake because I drove down there after the place had closed, because I knew a little. It was, it was after 10. It was supposed to be out of there by 10 o'clock, I think, and then they make it sundown on different times of the year. Mm-hmm. But I'd snuck in there, when I wasn't supposed to be there, because I knew how to get in there, having spent so much time. And I believe I got hit one time because I got hit with the mental thought is, I need to get out of here now. And I felt something in my chest of pure and sheer panic. Now, I didn't, ultrasound, that means below the hearing of human beings.
Right. And
we know that other animals have it. Elephants can do it. Tigers do it to freeze their prey. And before attacking them. But yes, I believe I was hit with that one time. Never up on the Sierra camp, but I believe I stumbled in a place where they didn't want me to be. And I got the hell out of there fast.
Well, yeah, and the time, because they lock the gates there. And if you're not out at a certain time, you can't drive out.
Correct.
I almost got caught in there once, right as they were closing. Yeah, you don't want to be in there. So that makes sense that they would get used to humans being there at certain times. And then after that, they can do whatever they want. If a human's there, it's, get out. So that makes sense. Gosh, you're making me want to make a trip with you.
Me too.
James A. Reed and see what we see. Oh, my goodness. Scott, do you have anything that you want to leave us with? We've got about 3 minutes left.
Well, just that I'll be doing a conference up at with Dave Polides, hosted by Dave Polides, at the Montana Vortex. Dave Polides lives right close to there now, and they're calling it the Montana Vortex Conference. And that is October 6th. Me and Stevie will be up there doing a presentation.
Okay.
And talking about, so many researchers have been bugging me for all these years to get a book done.
Yes.
Where I can publish all 75 pages of the transcripts. And so that is well in the works, and we actually do have a title for it, which Stevie came up with. It's called Discovering the Language of the Green Man.
Oh, okay.
The Green Man. And the reason we chose that is because, there's legends of the Green Man. And still to this day, amongst, the pagan communities, they believe, the Green Man. But what the Green Man really was in Europe was a gigantic, hairy, wild man who lived in the woods.
Yes.
And a good friend of mine who's passed on now, Dmitry Bayanov, wrote an entire book about the Green Man and the carvings in cathedrals and, this stuff that goes back 1,000 years.
Or more. Yeah.
So that's why we're calling. So you can watch for it, in the next year or so, that the language of the Green Man.
Well, that's fantastic that you're getting that done, because I know a lot of people have been wanting to see something in writing for years. Of course, you did write a really, really good article, and I put the link in here in our banner. So, let me see if I can find that right. Okay, here's your open letter to the Bigfoot researchers community. So there's a link there. And oh boy, that is fascinating.
That was right at the beginning. And I think that was a cover letter for the Sasquatch phonetic alphabet, which I published in 2010.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it. Time flies by really fast.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Oh, there we go. Grace found the Montana Con. Awesome.
There it is. Yep.
October 7th to 8th, 2023.
Yep. Ron Morehead will be there with me and Stevie and Joe Hauser, Jim Meyer, and a lot of guys. Tom Powell.
Awesome.
A lot of really good guys.
Thank you so much.
And it's a beautiful country up there, too. So.
Oh, it is. I love Montana.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you, Margie.
We'll see you soon.
Likewise.
Okay. Well, another episode of NX is complete. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I'll see you again next week.